Hi and welcome to the Mum Drum. I'm Amy Fellman.
And I'm Dr. Nicole Hyatt.
Today on the show we're chatting to Nia, mum of Harriet 12 and Gus 10, about her long journey with postnatal depression. Looking back, Nia realises she went to great lengths to hide her experiences from others, a reflection of the pressure mums put on themselves to be perfect and the stigma still associated with mental health problems in motherhood.
We live in a country with the best healthcare system in the world, and despite the many flags and warning signs, Nia's difficulties were missed. I first met Nia in the supermarket when we were both new mums. It wasn't until years later she confided in me about her struggles. To understand why so many mums don't reach out for support, she's joining us today.
Nia, it's so great to have you here.
Thanks for inviting me.
Nia, so you experienced postnatal depression with your first child, but it was never really identified until you had your second child and he was actually 4 months old. How did that go missed for so long?
Look, I guess I'd never had much contact with babies and children, so I really didn't know what to expect. And then when the craziness started, I just thought, this is baby life. This is how it should be. This is how it is. And just got on with it, I suppose. I come from a farming background where you don't moan, you don't complain, you just get on with it. I had no idea that what I was experiencing wasn't normal. Harriet, my daughter, it was a Caesar birth, which was a bit of a shock, but, she was a breech baby. She had, a few complications, and I just thought, well, we just accept each thing, go along with it, get it over with, and move on to the next thing. I didn't realise there'd be so many next things to move on to, but also I didn't, it was just a roller coaster.
So what were those days like when you had Harriet, so your first child? What was it like living through day by day like that?
Oh, look, so it was a while ago, but I still remember feeling incredibly tired, but physically tired, but also tired of the situation, and thinking it was never going to be any different or get better. So I guess just trying to get myself up in the morning, trying to get myself moving, hoping there was no invitations to go out, or because I normally would put them off or make excuses, and trying to stop Harriet crying. It went on for a very long time. She was a very unsettled child with a few things that were going on for her, so it was hard to have a normal day. Each day was different, but I knew it was going to be revolting whatever day it was.
Can you paint a bit of a picture for us?
Okay.
About,
lots of crying, lots of unsettledness during the first definitely first 8 months. She had a dislocated hip, so she had a leg brace on. I lost my milk, so she was on formula. She was lactose intolerant. We found that out afterwards, and also she had silent reflux. So she had a lot going on, and I think a very unsettled baby anyway.
Was there lots of crying?
Lots of crying, lots of screaming. She'd cry herself to sleep, and then she'd wake again within 20 minutes or so. So it was very unsettled. There were no sort of times when she was asleep for 3 hours or 5 hours. There was no long spaces. So lots of time pushing her in the pram. It was winter, so I remember putting on lots of jackets and making sure she was warm and dry, and just pounding the streets. So yeah, it seemed to be like that for years, to be honest, and it probably was. There wasn't much sunshine. It was all very, it was very grim.
Yeah,
it was very grim.
And when you say grim, like from a kind of mood state and
From
a mind
my
state,
personal
what was it
mood,
like?
Just holding on by my fingertips, just trying to get through the day. There was no relief, because when she was asleep, I knew she'd be awake very soon. It was really tough. Really tough.
And you didn't reach out.
I guess it's all about being in control and having a normal child and a normal relationship with your baby and with your family. Yeah. And I think I was probably ashamed that I couldn't cope, and wanted to be seen as a good mother and just to, fit in with everyone else, and I clearly didn't. So yeah, so when I was actually screened by my maternal health nurse, I thought I was having a good day that day, so I fibbed on the form,
scale, yeah.
and yes, and sort of that went, and then you'd see them once a year, and there was no, it was almost a case of having to jolly myself up to get to the appointment, and then at the appointment's half an hour, everything's fine, yes, everything was fine. In comparison to what I'd been through maybe 2 or 3 days before, the 1 day or 2 days, or 3 days a month was enough for me to think that people say it will pass.
And sometimes you want to believe that so
much. I so desperately wanted to believe that and to be normal.
And when filling out the form with the maternal and child health nurse,
yes.
Were you worried about, what was the reason why you felt like you had to not be totally honest? What were you concerned about if you did?
That's a really good question, actually. What would have happened? I guess I was clinging on, I was so fragile. I thought maybe the Band-Aid would be well and truly ripped off, and then I would have to be completely open about how bad it was and how I wasn't coping, and how life was really awful. I'd never felt that bad, that sad, that hopeless, and I guess it's, you're at your lowest, and you kind of have to be at your strongest to actually put your hand up and say, I'm in a really bad place, can I get some help?
Yeah. At the same time, you shouldn't have to be at your strongest to ask, should you?
No, exactly.
That's
It's really, I mean, sort of looking back now in hindsight, I could see, if I had put my hand up, I have friends who are psychologists, I could have had help that way, but for some reason I was just sort of in this bubble with my baby, and my husband, of course, but he was on the outside. It was just me and my daughter, and it was a case of, well, I have to make the best of it. I have to get on with it, get through the day, make sure she's okay, and tomorrow will be another day.
And I think another thing that happens is you have this image in your mind before you have children, and even in that space where you think, this is what motherhood was supposed to be like, this is what I'm striving for motherhood to be like. And you're trying to live up to that, and you're trying to believe that this is just a bad patch. I'm going to achieve that motherhood.
Yes, the bad patch.
Yes. And the bad patch went on and
on.
But you still strived in hope that it was just another bad day, or it was going to pass. But as a result of that, maybe that's what stopped you getting help, and you didn't realise until you had Gus.
That's right, my second baby.
And you finally had what would be otherwise now described as a normal experience, but that made you realise how bad things actually were.
Well, he arrived and he slept a lot, which worried me initially because I thought, there's something wrong with him. Why is he sleeping so much? All he was doing was eating, and then he would just lie on his back and turn his head and he'd fall asleep.
Like babies are meant to do.
Well, who knows?
Well, me too,
So he was one of those babies. He was a large baby. I also had a very different birth with him, had a natural birth with him, which was amazing. And this seemed to be the story that everyone was telling me. This is what motherhood was for everyone else. So I had it. And Gus was, was an amazing sleeper. He was a great eater. It was fabulous. And yet I still couldn't stop crying. It was very strange.
That's what made you realise.
That's what made me realise. It wasn't, I think extreme tiredness and exhaustion, obviously, for 4 years. And then having my second baby, that's when I realised that he's sleeping, he's doing all the things he should do. My daughter's running around as toddlers do. And that's actually what made me seek help. Was a friend of mine. I was talking to him on the phone, and he said, I think you need to stop crying now, Nia. You've been crying for a long time. So that's when I thought, maybe he's right.
Wow.
And what was, tell us a little bit about that experience.
That experience is interesting.
So going to seek help for the first time.
I did. So I went to see a new GP. A girlfriend had recommended him. She was, she used him for her mental health plan, and he's very open. So I had a lovely chat with him, and he said, look, I do think you need to see a psychologist to get the ball rolling, see how you're feeling. Sure, I can do that. So I jumped in the car with my newborn baby and my toddler and went to see this lady who was, she was very interesting. So I had a quick chat with her, and she she basically said I needed to get myself a part-time job and, you know, find a bit more about myself and what I wanted to do in life, and then I would be fine.
Mm-hmm. And
well, getting out of the house with 2 children was enough to make me realise that, you know, even that itself was ridiculously hard. So having to get up and put on a work face and go to work was completely unachievable. And I found she was such a waste of time. She gave me nothing, and I was very disappointed in that.
And it takes so much energy to get
so
there in
much
the first
energy,
place.
and she completely missed me. She even said at the end of the session, "Shall we book another 4 or 5 sessions?" And I said, "What's the point?" I said, "You really don't understand what I'm trying to tell you." Yes, it was quite a bizarre.
Did that put you off reaching out to somebody else afterwards?
Look, I guess by that time, I just wanted it to be fixed.
Yes.
You'd had enough.
So sick of myself. And also, you know, churning out the same, you know, I had a Caesar birth, and, you know, it gets really boring after a while, because that's all my life was. And I kind of maybe at that time, with Gus being born and being a good sleeper, I was ready for maybe a different experience of motherhood, and I was getting it, and I wanted to sort of move on a bit
and embrace that.
Well, I didn't know you could embrace it. You know, I was so on my knees.
You know, what did you need when you went into that room?
I guess someone saying that what I was experiencing hadn't been normal, and some support that way. Yes, and just some support.
Understanding, empathy and support. And did you get that? Did you go and see someone else? Did you find?
I didn't go see someone else. I went back to my GP and had a chat with him. He was lovely, and he suggested some medication. And I think within probably 6 days, I could feel this real lightening of my load, and I could feel myself becoming brighter. It was very, very weird physical feeling. And then I guess with the medication came me more able to talk about my feelings with my girlfriends and with other people. And I guess, you know, that kind of helped even more.
And you guys were friends, yeah?
Of course, yes.
Yeah, you didn't know the extent of what was going on, so
no one did.
Yeah.
Hide? I don't know.
I just suppress it. Like, you must.
And I suppose looking back, we would see each other at the supermarket or whatever.
That's right.
But we didn't see each other often. But I can see now that because Nia was so isolated and she isolated herself, because it was so hard for her.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my family are all overseas. Okay. I was an older mum, so my actual immediate family of girlfriends didn't have children
at the same time.
At the same time, they'd moved on, or I have single girlfriends. So it was very isolating. A new relationship with my now husband. You know, that was very new. That was only a year old when we had Harriet. So it was very lonely, very lonely. And I had a great mothers group, but they all seemed quite happy in their little units. You know, breastfeeding and babies sleeping and all that stuff apparently that goes on when you have a newborn baby.
Do you think that was really going on for people in the mother group, or was everyone?
I've since found out there was a couple of girls who were having real difficulty, and I didn't find that out for years afterwards, which made me think if I'd put my hand up and said, God, is anyone else having a really bad time, that maybe it would have shifted something, but
it's a microcosm of society,
course. And
you know,
also they're new mums and they're new friends. We only know them for 12 weeks, so I guess it's really hard to be that vulnerable and open when you're such new friends.
And you're all striving for that ideal experience and thinking it's coming, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Yeah. Well, for some people it does, and that's marvellous that it does. It just didn't happen for me, unfortunately.
I think mums groups, it's a real sort of fertile ground. Oh, no. for Tolga. But an opportunity, isn't it, for there to have, you start out having that organised by the maternal child health nurse and the community centre. So there is a real opportunity to have contact with professionals early to kind of encourage those conversations.
There is, and I think, it was only 13 years ago that I had a newborn baby, but I think a lot of things have changed.
Yeah.
I think it's slowly getting there, but now the onslaught. I didn't have Facebook or Instagram when I was a mum, a young mum, and I don't know if that makes it better or does it make it worse. I don't know.
Both ways, I think.
Yeah, so I think it's really tricky. The only contact I had was my daughter's GP and my maternal health nurse, who was an older lady, and didn't kind of
feel comfortable. Really
no. And I think she was very concerned about Harriet at the beginning, she wasn't putting on weight, and so she was very concentrated on the baby, which was perfect because she came in for the first meeting and it was all action stations. Harriet lost far too much weight. My scar was infected. She spotted it straight away. She was amazing. I had no milk, so Harriet was on formula straight away after 5 days of being home because she was so hungry. So it was really, she was brilliant in that way, but mental health stuff, no, missed that completely.
And you had a lot of what we'd kind of call, I guess, red flags, or in terms of the breastfeeding challenges, the birth kind of, I don't know if you call it trauma, but it was certainly not what you...
I've spoken about the birth with a friend of mine, and he was quite happy to put a bit of trauma and a lot of upset around that, which maybe led on through the beginning of the of being a mum, but and then Harriet, she had a bad leg and they thought it was cerebral palsy. That was at 18 months old, so they put a splint on her and said she would need this for 9 years, and so that was a bit that coming along as well. So there was it was very strange.
And considering all of that, the professionals around you not kind of picking up on this stuff.
Well, it was interesting when I actually very quickly proceed my oh my god, that's awful, and then would move on, and I guess it was really hard. And then also with Gus, when I was pregnant with him, I had to have an ovary out when I was actually pregnant, when I was 18 weeks pregnant. I had my scan of the second baby, and the baby was fine, but they discovered potentially cancer in one of my ovaries. So when I was 18 weeks pregnant, they removed it. So I guess being in hospital and nurses going, oh my goodness, it's really tough, you're still pregnant and they've done a major operation, how are you feeling? And the baby was fine. My new obstetrician was incredible. Lionel was insanely supportive through my second pregnancy. I chose such a great obstetrician, which I think makes a massive difference as well. So lots of professionals in the hospital going, oh, you've had a really hard time, and that's, I guess, as how deep they took it. You've had a really hard time, which was supportive at the time, but I didn't realise that I needed more than just a...
And no one still dived in?
No one still didn't...
Are you experiencing, how are you?
Yes, no, nothing. I guess because I had a toddler, they kind of thought, well...
She's through the
hard thing, and certainly I kind of thought I was. To a certain degree, I thought, well, this is motherhood. It's bloody horrible.
But also, I think at all these different times, everyone's attributing what's going on to what's going on at the time. So it's the scare with the cancer, or it's sleep deprivation, or it's your daughter not being unsettled, or we can always attribute it to something else.
Yes.
And it's easier to do that rather than put it together and say, regardless of what the cause is.
Yes,
I'm still not coping.
Yes, there is an issue here, and I need some help. I don't know what sort of, but again, the question is, what does that help look like?
And how do I get it?
Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking about that. What would I have? How would I have asked for it? What would I have wanted?
Yeah,
and I guess it's just some continuing support through it, and not having to repeat my story all the time.
It's exhausting in itself,
and it's boring. It's boring for me to have to keep churning up the same. When she was 3 months, and when she was 7, it's tedious.
And feeling like it's your responsibility. I can still even hear you sort of going, if only I'd asked it differently.
Yes.
You're still in a way accepting all the responsibility for the fact that you didn't reach out.
And that's the thing, it's such a lonely small world. It's just you and the baby. And yes, even, you know, my poor husband who, you know, he's a tradie, he's very hands-on, very present, but he had no idea what to do. I don't think he even, I don't know what, I mean, I don't know what he thought he would do.
It was interesting. It was only a few months ago I was over with Nia and Nia's husband Michael was there, and we were reflecting on this time in Nia's life, and I was asking, you know, he would refer to it when Nia had the postnatal, and it's like it was just a haze for him, wasn't it? That's how he...
I mean, to be fair, he was working incredibly hard. He was setting up his own business. So, you know, he was doing 12, 14 hours away from home. And then he would come back and, you know, he would do what he could. But, and also I was very controlling. I thought, clearly as the mother, I should know what to do. And, you know, the baby would only respond to me. And, you know, and poor Michael probably thought, what's going on there? But, you know, his first child as well. Who would know?
Because we have no reference point.
We have there's no manual. Why is that? Really rude.
And you talked about your upbringing as well. You know, and that impacts as well. And if,
of course,
you know,
both my sisters are overseas. Mum and dad are overseas. Yeah, so really tricky.
Do I come from a family where it's okay to talk about my feelings?
Yes, I remember actually getting very annoyed. My mum rang me one morning and she goes, well, what's wrong with her? And I just said, I don't know. You know, if I knew that,
you'd fix it.
I'd fix it. But bless her.
So you've done a lot of reflecting.
A lot of reflecting. And, you know, constantly I kind of think as well, I think about my daughter being 13 and my son is 10 now.
Wow.
And, you know, I'm still reduced to tears.
When you think back about
when I think back about
what
how
you've lived through and how dark
hideous it was. And I'm still on medication, and I actually did try and come off it probably about 5 years ago, and I could feel that familiar feeling just descending on me. And I thought then, oh my goodness, is this how I felt all the time before I started taking medication? It was, so I quickly took one, and there we go. I'm happy to stay on it forever if it means I can be the person I am now and able to function and, you know, be a great mum.
Back to your gorgeous self.
Yeah, indeed. And, you know, I have a life and I enjoy it as opposed to just dragging myself around with children, you know, which was awesome.
So, Neil, based on your experience, obviously, what would be the key pieces of advice that you would give to a mum these days?
Key pieces of I do. I work in retail now. Whenever I see a mum with a baby, I don't pay any attention to the baby. I just go, how are you? Are you okay? You dressed? You're amazing. You know what, I really do think, I wish someone had said, trust your instincts. Trust your instincts as a mother and as a woman. And my life before I had children was amazing. And then I had children and it was really awful. And there's a reason for that. So if you're not coping, it's because the situation's really bad. So I trust your instinct. It's something that is not talked about a lot, and also asking people's advice. Everyone has a different piece of advice to give you. That's really confusing. You know, it would be nice if you
even amongst the health professionals,
even amongst, you know, breastfeeding in hospital, 8 different types of ways of holding your baby to whatever. I guess find a source of support that you know is going to be constant in your life and your baby's life. And just stick to that one person that you trust. It's really important just to have...
You mentioned having the continuity with the obstetrician the second time around.
Yes, he was amazing. I actually had a miscarriage as well in between with, and I had a second with my lovely obstetrician Lionel, and he was amazing. Through it all, he was clear, concise, very professional, incredibly empathetic of what I'd gone through with my Caesar. And when I actually voiced some fears about that, he was so kind. So yes.
Someone you can really trust.
Exactly. Trust was, looking back, was the reason that I was able to have such a great birth, I think, because he knew exactly what was going on and was very kind.
And is the stigma as entrenched as we think? You know, our expectations of ourselves as being perfect.
Yes.
You know, when you finally got there and felt comfortable to actually let it out, did you discover that maybe people don't hold such fixed expectations of mothers that you thought?
Interesting question. I think a lot of my emotion was my internal stuff, but certainly not having anyone to talk it through with, or anyone that could catch me out on things that I was actually lying to myself about. That sort of level of support and care, I think, would have made me realise, actually, you know, maybe everyone's not having such an amazing time. Maybe there are people out there having a similar time to me. Didn't see many of them, and not many people put their hands up to. And I guess now social media, you know, you've got people being very honest and frank on social media. Carrie Bickmore put a great post up. It's a picture of her, you know, not filtered, it was amazing, you know, being honest, which I think is really...
We need more honesty.
We need more honesty.
And we need to be
Say
encouraged.
it how it is.
Absolutely. You know, I've got a really little one, and so I'm early in the journey, and I've had some, you know, challenges myself, and I have not been honest all the time, because you're constantly preserving your own sort of sense of self as well, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Grieving the person that you were before.
were, exactly. You know, older mum, you know, I had a great job before, and now when you have a baby, you change completely, physically, mentally, your whole day routine changes.
Identity.
Everything changes.
Thinking about that kind of identity, you know, it's like we have it's like, you know, it's the AD and before birth and after birth, you know, it's like our life is divided by that.
Yes.
You talked about having this great life before, then you had your babies and everything changed.
Yep.
Now, being finding yourself again.
Yes.
And also being a mum.
Yes.
What's your kind of new normal in that way, in terms of who you are now?
It is something that I'm still really conscious of.
Yeah.
And I think it is because I don't really remember much of Harriet growing up, you know, before her sort of 4th or 5th birthday. It was it's very shady. So I'm constantly trying to build relationship with her and with my son. And I guess but now I have so much energy and so much more positivity in my life that it's all coming naturally. So it's not an effort to think, all right, today I've got to go out, get the pram ready, get the kid ready, make sure he doesn't cry too much, make sure, you know, all this sort of almost keeping the lids on the saucepans. Whereas now, you know, I kind of think they're older, they're more capable, but still, you know, you're still a parent, and you know, they're quite good fun sometimes. Only sometimes, though.
And you're building your own life again.
Exactly.
Creating your new...
Yes, I'm back to work now because I want to go back to work and I'm ready.
Okay.
As opposed to be told, you know, that'll sort your mental health problems out. No, it won't.
Are you doing something new, or is it what you used to do?
So I'm a florist, so it's what I used to do before, and now, yes.
Beautiful.
Well, that's been amazing. Thank you so much, Nia, for sharing your experience with us today on the Mum Drum. It's been, I'm sure, so insightful for so many mums and dads and health professionals as well, I hope, to really understand what we can all do.
Yeah, well, it's a very tricky subject to talk about for me, but it's lovely to have you just listening to me.
Nia, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Wow, gee, we are so privileged to have had Nia talk today and bear all about her really challenging experiences in those early months and years of motherhood.
So, as always, remember to check out the Cope Guide if you want to find out any more information about these issues that we've talked about today. And until next time, we'll catch you on the Mum Drum.
See you then.